Okay. Mixed numbers are numbers which consist of a whole number and a proper fraction. Yeah, those are mixed numbers. Another thing you must notice this, that all improper fractions can be changed into mixed numbers. Because if you get 5 divided by 2, you realize that 2 goes into 5 2 times. You get it? Like this. This is an example of an improper fraction. This is 5 divided by 2. You get that? That is an improper fraction. And we say mixed numbers can be got from improper fractions. For example, if I may ask someone like Holly, how many times can 2 be got from 5? How many groups of 2 can be got from 5 items? Or how many 2s are in 5? Assuming we had the middle sticks, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. How many groups of 2 can be got from 5? Holly? Unmute, yes?
2.
Yes?
Teacher,
2, correct. That means if I'm to group items here, let me use some different ink. If we are to group this, we shall have, this would be 1 group of 2. We can have another group of 2 here. And those will make 2 groups of 2, right? The number of full groups will become the whole number, that will be 2. The remainder becomes the numerator divided by the common denominator, which is 2. You get that? And this becomes our mixed number. And we say mixed numbers consist of a whole number and a proper fraction, like you see it there. I hope that is very clear with everyone. I promise to repeat this. Majorly today, our learning intention will be addition, subtraction, and multiplication of fractions. You get it? I'm sure in your primary 4, 5, and some of you in primary 6, you have added, subtracted, and multiplied fractions. Yeah. And basically today we are going to look at application of fractions. How can we apply the knowledge of fractions in the daily life situation? Yeah. How can we apply the knowledge of fractions in a daily life situation? I am going to choose someone here to read for us. Let me see who can do that. Cynthia, you've not said anything. Can you read for us the first example here? Cynthia, unmute yourself and read for us the first example. Adet, would you help Cynthia? Because I think she has failed to unmute herself. Adet? Unmute yourself, Adet. Correct?
Teacher, read this statement. Adet, Peace, and Blessed contributed to start a company. Adet paid 3/10 of the cost, and Peace contributed 5/10 of the cost. What fraction did Blessed contribute?
What fraction did Blessed contribute? How many people contributed money, if I may ask? Ashava, how many people contributed money to start up the company?
3 people contributed.
Would you identify for me those people? Ashava? 1.
Adet.
Adet. 2.
Peace.
You.
Peace.
Okay.
No, Peace.
Okay, continue, please.
And Blessed.
Very good. We realize that 3 people contributed to start up the company. That is Adet, there is Peace, and Blessed. If we try to interpret that information and put it in a circle like that, you realize that we'll divide this circle into 3 parts. Adet contributes 3 parts out of the 10 parts given there. You see that? 3 out of 10, that is for Adet. And we realize that Peace contributes 5 out of 10. You get that? Peace contributes 5 out of 10, right? And Blessed, we are not given the parts Blessed contributes. However, it's very easy for us to get to know the fraction contributed by Blessed. Get it? Blessed, I'm sure you're very active. You already dropped the answer into my inbox. Thank you. Now, what are we supposed to do? Those who weren't here yesterday, you realize that this 3 out of 10 is for a debt, 5 out of 10 is a contribution for peace, and we don't know the fraction contributed for Blessed. What are we supposed to do? We realize that we shall get the whole contribution, that will be their total contribution, subtract the contribution made by a debt. This will be 3 out of 10. You get it? Plus the contribution made by peace, which will be 5 out of 10. I hope that is very clear. Yeah? Because if we are to get the contribution made by Blessed, we shall get the whole minus a debt's contribution, the parts that I am crossing here. Yeah, minus their contribution there. We realize that if we get the whole minus a debt and pieces contribution, the remainder will be the contribution for Blessed. Yeah, the remainder will be the contribution for Blessed. Let's look through the working.
Yeah.
If we are to get through the working there, you'd see something like that. Okay, if you look at this, like I told you, we shall get the sum of the contribution made by a debt and peace. You get it? The sum made by the contribution of a debt and peace. And you realize a debt contributes 3 out of 10, and while peace contributes 5 out of 10. If we are to get the sum of their contribution, this would be, we shall add the numerators, that will be 3 plus 5, divided by the common denominator, which is 10. Why have we maintained the denominator? Because we realize that the denominator for the fraction for debt and the fraction for peace have got the same denominator. You get that? And when we add the numerator 3 plus 5, we get 8, like you see there, divided by 10. That will be the total contribution for a debt and peace. Therefore, how do we get the contribution for Blessed? We shall get the whole or total money contributed minus the total sum contributed by both a debt and peace. And that will be the whole minus 8 out of 10. You get the point? So moving forward, what determines the whole? This denominator you are seeing here determines the whole. You get it? Because this is 8 parts out of the total parts, which is 8. If we're talking of the whole, that is the total amount of money which is contributed. That's why at the next step there, you'll see 10 divided by 10 minus the contribution made by a debt and peace, which will be 8 out of 10, to give us a result of 2 out of 10. Now we can't stop here. We can't stop here. Why? Because we realize 2 and 10 have got a common factor. That's why it was simplified to get 1 out of 5. And how was it simplified? They divided this by the common, they divided that by the common factor there, which is 2. And 2 divided by 2, 2 divided by 2 here we get 1, and 10 divided by 2, we get 5. That means Blessed's contribution is 1 out of 5. Is that okay? Now, yesterday we had part B of this question. And what was it calling for? Part B was a very simple question, which said, if Blessed contributes 30,000 shillings, what was their total contribution? This 30,000 you are seeing here is the contribution for Blessed, right? So now that we know Blessed's contribution, it is easier for us to get to know the total contribution. The working shown here says, let the total contribution be K, and we get the fraction of Blessed of the total contribution K. which finally gives us 30,000. You get it? And here we shall have 1 out of 5 times k, because we know of and about mass is replaced with the multiplication symbol. So we shall have 1 out of 5 of k, which is equal to 30,000 shillings. In order for us to do away with this denominator of 5, we shall multiply it on both sides. That's why here we had it times 5 and also multiply it on the other side times 5. We realize that by 5 here, we get 1s. By that 5 there, we remain with k, which will be equal to 30,000 times 5 to give us a total contribution of 150,000 shillings. Assuming you did not want to come up with an algebraic equation there, how would we get to know the total contribution for Adet, Peace, and Blessed? This will be very easy. We would get the amount, 30,000, that was contributed by Blessed. 30,000 that was contributed by Blessed. Divide it by Blessed's fraction. Obviously, we know that Blessed's fraction there was 1 out of 5. Blessed's fraction is 1 out of 5. So what do we do at the next step? At the next step, we know that this 30,000 here will be maintained. Whereby 30,000 will also be expressed as a fraction, and that will be out of 1. The division symbol you're seeing here will change to multiplication. And we get the reciprocal of the fraction that comes after. Reciprocal simply meaning that this denominator will go up, yeah, and the numerator will come down. That's what they call reciprocal. That means after changing the after changing the division symbol to multiplication, we get the reciprocal of the fraction that comes after, and that will be 5 out of 1. You get it? It is the fraction that comes after, and it's the division symbol which is changing to multiplication. Those who remember in their primary 5, while they're teaching you fractions, they said while dividing fractions, the division symbol changes to multiplication, and we get the reciprocal of the fraction that comes after. That's the same steps we're using here. Finally, we shall have 30,000 times 5. And you realize that it is similar to this step here. 30,000 times 5. And when you multiply it, you still get the same answer of 150,000. Any question? If you have a question, you can easily raise up your hand. If you have a question, raise up your hand. If you're not raising up your hand and you feel you have understood, put your thumb up. Put your thumb up if you feel you have understood. If you have not understood, kindly raise up your hand and I assist you. Correct. I see thumbs up and Pony has made it for me live. Thank you. Thank you. It was the same. Okay, Holly, you have your hand up. Unmute yourself and speak, please. Holly.
Teacher, there was a network problem.
You had a network problem?
Yeah.
From which step didn't you understand, Holly?
No, teacher, I left when you're still explaining about Adet and Peace and Blessed.
Jesus is Lord. So I should go and repeat from last year. It's okay. Adet, Peace, and Holy. Now, Adet, this is what we are going to do. In order for us to get to know Blessed's fraction, we shall get the sum of the first two fractions, like you see it here. 3 out of 10 plus 5 out of 10. When we get the sum of this fraction, we realize since we have the same denominators, we shall only add the numerator. That's why here we are having 3 plus 5 divided by 10, and it gives us a result of 8 out of 10. Get it? This will be the total contribution for Adet and Peace. How do we get to know Blessed's contribution? We shall get the total amount minus the contribution for a debt and peace. You get it? And we realize that the contribution for a debt and peace is 8 out of 10. Mathematically, their contribution was 8 parts out of the total 10 parts. What am I trying to show you there? Is that this denominator determines the whole. That's why at these steps you see here, the whole has been represented with 10 out of 10. You get it? Minus the contribution for a debt and peace to give us a result of 2 out of 10. Looking at this, we realize that we realize that 2 out of 10 has got a common factor. When we simplify this, we shall finally get 1 out of 10. Sorry, 1 out of 5. Because 2 divided by 2, we get 1, and 10 divided by 2, we get 5. Maybe something small that I need to let you people know. Assuming these fractions had different denominators. Assuming these fractions had different denominators, because I'm sure some of you may get hard time while working out the activity. Assuming we had different fractions, for example, 2 out of 5 plus 1 out of 3. Assuming we had different denominators. Unlike the example I have given you, this would still be very easy. The easiest method I can give you is that you cross multiply. You can cross multiply. And cross multiply there. Okay, let me repeat refreshing. We can cross multiply. Let me get this. Okay, assuming we had 2 out of 5 plus a third. A third is 1 out of 3. Yeah. How would we simplify this fraction? I'm giving an idea to those who may have forgotten this. We can do this. We cross multiply, something like that. I hope you're observing. Yeah. After cross multiplying, you get the product of the denominators to get the final answer. Now, when we decide to cross multiply, we shall have 2 times 3. You get it? This will be 2 times 3. Yeah. Put it in brackets. Plus 5 times 5 times 1. Also leave it in brackets. Divide this by the product of the denominator. The product, the result we get after multiplying. This will be 5 times 3. Moving forward, when we simplify this, we shall have 2 times 3, we get, let me write it here, 2 times 3, we get 6, plus the other side, we have 5 times 1, where we get 5. Divide this by the product of the denominator, that will be 5 times 3, we get 15. You get it? Get 15. When we get the final answer, 6 plus 5, we get 11 out of the common denominator there, which is 15. That means your final answer will be 11 out of 15. Is that okay? I hope that is the simplest method you can always use, and it won't give you lots of headache. Yeah. Let's look at the activity I have shared. Good. This is a very good example for you guys to see. Reduce this. Okay. Now, like this, it is something, I hope it is visible for all of you. Jean ate 2 out of 5 of a pancake. Joan ate a third of the pancake, and the rest was eaten by Peter. What fraction of the cake did Peter eat? Like I was trying to show you, that means we shall first get the total fraction of Joan and Jean. And you realize that if you get the total sum of the fraction, that will be 2 out of 5 plus 1 out of 3. You see that? 2 out of 5 plus 1 out of 3. You realize that the denominators are not the same. So what will be the solution? Cross multiply, then get the product of the denominator. When you cross multiply, you'll have 2 times 3, which is 6, plus 5 times 1, which is 5. Divide this by 5 times this, which is 15, and you get the answer. The answer which will be 11 out of 15. 11 out of 15. You get it? Now, how do we get to know the fraction contributed by Peter? We shall get the whole minus 11 out of 15. And what determines the whole? It's this 15 that determines the whole. We shall have 15 out of 15 minus 11 out of 15, whereby our final answer will be 4 out of 15. I beg to stop there and wish you a good evening. And wish you a good evening. I hope it will be easier for you to work out the activity. Once I bite all of you, have a good evening, Blessed. Have a good evening, Pony. Have a good evening, Nawa. Have a good evening, Otim. Have a good evening, Cynthia. Have a good evening, Ashava. You can log in after a minute. Log in after a minute for your SST lesson and go check Google Classroom for homework. Bye-bye. You try that 20 times.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
After a minute, log in for SST.